What's going on, everybody? I'm Johnny Brook. Welcome back to another Crafted Workshop video. In this video, I'm going to show you how to build this awesome wooden robot toy. Stay tuned. The first step in this project is cutting the slot for the robot's mouth. I was making a bunch of these for the Atlanta Maker Faire this past weekend, so I just ran an 8-foot long 2x4 over my table saw with the depth of cut set at about 1/4 inch and the fence set at about 1 inch. After cutting the mouth, cut out the head for the robot. The head and body are just 3.5 inch squares, so just cut a 3.5 inch piece from your 2x4 to make the head, and you should be left with a square with a slot for the mouth. Using a Forstner bit, drill a few holes for the eyes. I used a drill press with a fence since I needed to make a bunch of repeated holes, but you could easily use a handheld drill. A Forstner bit leaves a little hole in the center of the bigger hole, which makes it look even more like an eye, which is kind of perfect for this project. Next, cut the body in the same way you cut the head. Again, the body is a 3.5 inch square, so just cut a 3.5 inch piece from the 2x4. Once you've gotten your head and body pieces cut, you need to drill the holes for the rope to feed through. On the head, drill one vertical hole roughly centered in the piece. Go all the way through the head and make sure you're using a bit large enough so that you can thread the rope through the hole later. And also make sure there are no chips or shavings left in the hole, because that'll keep the rope from threading through. Next, drill holes in the body. Once you've gotten the vertical hole drilled in the body, you need to drill the 2 horizontal holes for the rope for the arms and legs to run through. Drill these in a different plane from the vertical hole so that the rope doesn't run into each other when attaching the head to the body and the arms and legs to the body. More on that a little later. After drilling holes in the head and body, drill holes in the arms and legs in the same way. I evidently lost some footage of cutting the arms and legs, but they're the same idea as the head and body, except they're cut from 2x2 material. I set my stop block on the miter saw to 1.5 inches and made 1.5 inch cubes. You'll need 4 cubes per robot, so 2 arms and 2 legs. And once you have them cut, just drill holes in the arms and legs roughly in the center. Now on to the fun part, sanding, or not. I made 30 of these kits for the Atlanta Maker Faire, which meant I had 180 tiny pieces of wood to sand. Luckily, the oscillating belt sander made pretty quick work of the 2x4 pieces, but the 2x2 pieces were too small to use with the belt sander without sanding the tips of my finger off. So I had to sand each of the 120 arm and leg pieces by hand. So needless to say, my arms were very tired by the end of that sanding session. After sanding, I decided to add a little flair to my robot and cut a tie for him on the bandsaw. I used a small scrap piece of sapele, which was actually left over from my guitar build, and just roughed out the shape of the bandsaw and then sanded it smooth by hand. To add some color to the eyes and mouth, I spray painted the entire front surface of the head, making sure to fill in the eyes and mouth, and then sanded off the paint once it had dried. This leaves you with paint in the eyes and mouth and just adds a really nice contrast. For finishing, I used a simple spray polyurethane. If this is for your kids and you think they might be putting the pieces in their mouth, you might want to research a few food-safe finishes like mineral oil or salad bowl finish. There are a bunch of good options out there. Just do some research and you'll find something that works for you. Once you've got your finish applied, it's time for assembly. So first I threaded the rope through the head, tying knots on each end. And then next I threaded that same piece of rope vertically through the body and tied another knot at the bottom. Next, I tried to thread the rope horizontally through the body for the legs and feet. And unfortunately, this is where I realized I had made a major error. So when I drilled the vertical and horizontal holes for the body, I drilled them in the same plane, since I had the fence set to the same position for all the holes. This meant that once I went to assemble the robots, I couldn't thread the rope for the arms and legs through, since the rope going vertically through the body was blocking the holes. So of course I didn't assemble a test robot before making 30 of these kits, so I had to rethink my method of attaching the legs and arms. If you're building this kit from scratch, I'd recommend just drilling the holes slightly offset from one another to avoid this. That way you won't have to deal with any gluing, as it's kind of a mess. For my robot, and also if you got a kit from me at the Maker Faire in Atlanta, you'll need to cut short pieces of rope for the legs and arms and tie knots to keep them secured onto the pieces, and then you'll need to glue the other ends of those rope into the holes on the side of the body. I used 5-minute epoxy, but you might try Elmer's glue, a hot glue gun, or any other kind of strong adhesive. If you're assembling this with your kids, I'm guessing Elmer's glue is probably your best bet. Just use plenty to make sure the arms and legs don't pop off later. If you're making this project from scratch, you can just thread the rope through the sides of the body just like you did for the head and the body. Once you've got your arms and legs attached using whatever method you're using, your robot is complete.
Alright guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this build. I built this robot toy for the Atlanta Maker Faire, which was this past weekend in Decatur, Georgia. I made about 30 of these kits to give out at my booth and just kind of have something for people to bring home with them. So if you're watching this video because you met me at the Maker Faire, thanks so much for checking out my channel, and hopefully you stick around for my future builds. This was a lot of fun. It's a great gift or something like that for any of the children in your family. We've got the holidays coming up, so I thought this would be a really fun project to kind of show you guys, and it's a great use of scraps. I mean, it just uses 2x4 and 2x2 pieces. You can easily customize the shapes and sizes to fit whatever scraps you might have on hand, and it was a really simple, easy project. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you can build this maybe with your own kids and have a lot of fun doing so. If you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and get subscribed. I have new project videos every Tuesday. Also, if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and leave a comment. That's super helpful. I also started a second channel for my weekly maker roundups, tool reviews, event coverage, all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, I'll have a card that you guys can click on to go ahead and get subscribed to that. And last, if you want to support me further and see some kind of behind the scenes content and get some really cool perks, check me out on Patreon. It's patreon.com/craftedworkshop. All right, thanks again for watching. Until next time, happy building.